an entrepreneur. And now we have it even more dividing as a couple, I think, are looking at two very, very different futures.
It started subtly, little tensions on camera, increasingly separate PR strategies. Last year, it was already clear he's doing philanthropy, she's going full entrepreneur. But now, the divide looks deeper. Fast forward to Harry in Africa, reenacting his mother's landmine walk, while Meghan's dead silent post July 4th. No photo ops, no statements, just carefully orchestrated reposts from diehard fans hoping for a royal retweet. You can practically hear the Montecito team scrambling behind closed doors.
The silence of Meghan Markle since July 4th has been wild because she should be on social media. Like,
What's Harry's answer to the professional freefall? Apparently a solo journey to Africa. He's mingling with his so-called second family, not returning messages, not FaceTiming home. Meghan? Nowhere to be seen. He's extending olive branches to his royal relatives, sharing his personal diary so they don't clash on dates. Alone, just his diary, not theirs, not a couple's move, a Harry move. And Meghan? She's staying silent, letting Harry do the royal groveling while she plots her next act, likely solo.
Harry's olive branch means nothing. When you're married, Harry, your olive branch means nothing.
And oh, the public reaction. That reconciliation op-ed in the Telegraph ratioed into oblivion. People aren't buying it. 5 years of lawsuits, accusations, and scorched earth interviews don't vanish with a calendar sync. And Meghan's lack of presence is speaking louder than any podcast episode. Her entire PR game right now repastes from fans fishing for attention. It's low energy, low strategy, and it reeks of panic. The once fascinated public has shifted to fatigue. Let's get real. Montecito is expensive. The palace may be land-rich, but Meghan wanted cash flow and fast. Harry, bless him, doesn't have the funds. The royal family isn't handing out blank checks, and without Netflix paying top dollar, those mortgages, PR firms, and glam squads don't fund themselves. And now Harry wants to be a full-time philanthropist without the cash to bankroll it. Meanwhile, Meghan's stuck holding the brand bag, and let's be honest, she was never built for budget living. So what happens when the dream home becomes a gilded cage? When the cash runs low and the partnerships start looking more transactional than romantic? Insiders are murmuring. Harry is pivoting. Meghan is plotting. They're no longer moving as one. The man who once vowed to protect her at all costs is now sharing personal schedules with the royal family, alone. And she's nowhere near his diary or his olive branch. He's not folding. He's playing his hand. And Meghan, she's figuring out how to play hers before the whole house of cards comes crashing down. Trump and Epstein were cozy, best friends, according to people who knew them then. Yes, those are the words, best friends. They were seen together, partied together, laughed in the same rooms. The golden age of Mar-a-Lago power schmoozing. There was no bad blood, at least not publicly. Until suddenly, there was.
The only person that we know of that Epstein hired who worked for Trump was a 16-year-old girl.
And that brings us to the story Trump wants out there now. According to him, the falling out happened because Epstein crossed the line by hiring someone who worked at Trump's property. He says, don't ever do that again. Epstein did. Trump threw him out, called him persona non grata. End of bromance. Now here's where it gets messy. The only person we know Epstein hired from Mar-a-Lago was Virginia Roberts, later known as Virginia Giuffre, a 16-year-old who, as the record shows, was later trafficked by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Tara Palmieri spells that out in the transcript. The only person that we know of that Epstein hired who worked for Trump was a 16-year-old girl. Let that sink in.
The president's new explanation of his falling out with Epstein, which he really has not wanted to talk about, right? He said, oh, the reason doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about it. Now he's coming out with this that it was about hiring people who worked for him.
So Trump finally talks, but when he does, it's evasive. In one breath, it doesn't matter why we fell out. In the next, he absolutely wants us to know it was over this mysterious staffer incident. And when that narrative doesn't quite land, Trump pivots hard. Now it's a hoax, a political hit job, a drawing he didn't make featured in Epstein's infamous 50th birthday book. I don't do drawings, he says. I'm not a drawing person. Okay, then he's blaming the Biden administration. Yes, really, and James Comey. Somehow, in Trump logic, Comey and Biden are behind the Epstein files. Here's a fact to hold on to. Epstein was arrested while Trump was president. Let that marinate while we watch Trump try to rewrite the history books with a Sharpie.
He said something new. He said, well, any name in there could be a hoax.
And just when you think the plot can't twist any harder, Enter Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving 20 years for her role in Epstein's trafficking ring. Her attorney publicly asking Trump for a pardon. And Trump not exactly slamming the door shut. He says, and I quote, "Right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it. Not never, just not right now." Meanwhile, Maxwell's pushing for an appeal to the Supreme Court, and we learn about private meetings with the DOJ, boxes of unknown material, and yes, drones capturing footage of it all. Senator Dick Durbin is demanding answers from the Justice Department, specifically whether a pardon deal is being floated, because if you listen closely, Trump's language is laying the groundwork for something. Fashion diplomacy. A duchess who hugged children, preached feminism, and held Harry's hand like she was anchoring him to planet Earth. It was supposed to be a new chapter for the royals, modern, inclusive, photogenic. But darling, that fairy tale? Turns out the real story might have more plot twists than House of Cards.
Honestly, the bump in this image looks unnaturally firm, high, and foldable.
Because let's be honest, the cracks were always there. The bump wasn't just a bump, it was performance art. It sat high, firm, and, let's be generous, unusually foldable. Late-term pregnancies don't behave like that. And those videos where the belly moved independently of the body, let's just say maternity wear usually doesn't double as origami. Even post-birth, things looked anatomically avant-garde. The placement of the belly, the body proportions, the mysteriously unengorged bust, it didn't scream just gave birth, it screamed props department, scene 1. And once the palace doors shut, so did the brand deals. The podcast flopped. Netflix quietly ghosted those ambitious animated dreams. Hollywood wasn't calling, not unless it was to say, sorry, we've gone in another direction. Turns out, monetizing royal status isn't that simple when you're no longer royal enough. And here's the kicker. She was offered the chance to keep acting, to stay in the game, to have a career. Other royal-adjacent actresses did it gracefully. But no, that wasn't the plan. Because this wasn't about roles on screen. This was about owning the narrative, owning the brand, and cashing in on the crown. The only problem? The crown doesn't do co-branding.
My take on it is that she went into the royal family intending to commercialize.
When the Queen said no to half in, half out, it all changed. Until then, the plan was clear. Stay royal enough for prestige, stay private enough for profit. But once that door closed, the pivot was fast. Suddenly, it wasn't service is universal, it was service is monetizable. Strategic exits, pre-written announcements, a move to California that looked less like exile and more like a business expansion. This wasn't retreat, it was rebrand. And it became obvious who was driving the strategy. Let's just say it wasn't the one with the military medals.
Do you realise that this is the end? And Meghan responds, yes, I do know.
But public perception, brutal. The memes, vicious. The commentary, unforgiving. She went from Duchess to diva in record time. And then came the lip readers. Old footage surfaced, subtle moments at royal events, whispers caught on camera. Things like, take advantage of this situation, and you do realize this is the end. It wasn't a split, it was a strategy. The image of the wide-eyed, overwhelmed Duchess? Let's be honest, she was already 2 steps ahead. The world's catching up to the playbook. And former allies? They're quiet, too quiet. Meanwhile, in Montecito, someone has to pay the bills. PR firms, security teams, elite schools, it adds up. That glossy lifestyle, it doesn't come with royal funding anymore. And all the brand building in the world can't cover for dwindling interest and drying up deals. There's independence, and then there's invoice panic. She needs the money. She needs the attention. She's built a life that requires both. And when the public doesn't buy the product anymore, you better believe the pressure's mounting.